Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly is a very popular album that's loved by many. The album is a comprehensive experience that guides a listener through Kendrick's perspectives on racism, systemic oppression, poverty, exploitation in the music industry, women and identity struggles, and more. If I was asked to recommend an album with similar meaning, purpose, and most importantly dimension, I would point to Yasiin Bey's or Mos Def's Black on Both Sides. So in this video, I'm going to break down Yasiin Bey's Black on Both Sides, highlighting how certain elements lay the groundwork for creating a socially and politically themed album that can still achieve mainstream success. Just like To Pimp a Butterfly. I'm going to compare and contrast both albums a bit just to see how themes and stylistic elements from Black on Both Sides have influenced the genre since its release in 1999. And I think it's fair to say that Black on Both Sides is the blueprint for creating a political hip-hop album that is rich in social commentary but can still hit the mainstream. Just a side note, for the rest of this video, I'm going to refer to Mos Def as Yasiin Bey since that's technically his name now. So without further ado, let's get into it. Dante Terrell Smith, better known as Mos Def, and now Yasiin Bey, was born in Brooklyn, New York. Like many rappers born in New York, he was submersed into the world of hip-hop at an early age. He started his career as a child actor, most notably on Bill Cosby's The Cosby Mysteries, and shortly after formed a rap group called Urban Thermodynamics in 1994. He then saw solo success after featuring on De La Soul's Big Brother Beat and the Bush Babies' SOS. In 1997, he released his first single, Universal Magnetic, which led to him being discovered and signed to Ruckus Records. Soon after, he met Talib Kweli, and together they released their insanely popular album Black Star in 1998. A year later, Yasiin Bey debuted his first solo album that we're going to break down in this video today, Black on Both Sides, released in 1998. Black on Both Sides is an extremely impactful, dynamic, and intricate album where Yasiin Bey's amazing lyricism, word choice, and poeticism shine as each bar is carefully thought out and filled with ambition, passion, and purpose. His use of references enhance the listening experience, with each song teaching a moral and illuminating important topics. Growing up in Brooklyn, Yasiin Bey was influenced by his elders who taught him a lot, a theme evident throughout the album as he incorporates elements, samples, and references to traditional old school hip-hop and black culture. He samples jazz, rock, and soul, uses social and political lyrical content, and employs live instrumentation to express his views in an emotionally evocative manner that also sparks critical thinking. Despite its complexity, the album was successful and popular amongst veteran hip-hop fans and mainstream audiences. It peaked at number 25 on the Billboard 200, topped the rap and hip-hop charts, and was certified gold by February 2000, selling 500,000 copies. So let's get on to the good stuff, the themes of this album. The future of hip-hop. Black on Both Sides is known for being one of the most popular, socially conscious, and political hip-hop albums, so it's no surprise that it reflected the world in the late 90s. I talked a bit about this in my Busta Rhymes video, but leading up to the year 2000, people thought that the world was going to end. So this led to a lot of fear-mongering, suspicions, and questions about the future. But this was not just limited to the world, it also existed within hip-hop. Hip-hop was in a really interesting place in 1999. The 90s were a golden era in hip-hop. The genre achieved a market share of 10.8% at the time, and it tied in with country music being the second most popular genre in America, right after rock. But this number doesn't reflect how influential the genre had become. Pop and R&B were including rap features in their songs, and rap-rock hybrids like Rage Against the Machine and Limp Bizkit, I'll get back to them later, were gaining popularity. Lauryn Hill won the Grammy for Album of the Year, and in that year, Def Jam sold to music conglomerate Universal Music Group for $135 million, making it one of the biggest hip-hop business deals in history. So while commercialization did bring a lot of good to hip-hop, it also brought in some problems. There was the rise of pop rappers, the concept of selling out, and rap icons like Big L and Tupac and Biggie died at the heights of their careers after the sensationalization of gang violence and the East versus West Coast feud by the media. So as the new millennium approached, there were questions about hip-hop's future. How is mainstream success going to continue to affect hip-hop? Is it going to get better? Is it going to get worse? Hip-hop is black culture, and it is used to amplify and uplift the black American experience. So how does a genre that is so deeply intertwined with black culture and the black experience move forward with commercialization and appealing to audiences who aren't black? Well, that was the fear with the future of hip-hop. Many thought that commercialization would make the genre lose its original message or roots by appealing to people who didn't grow up in Black culture. Yasiin Bey addresses these concerns in Black on Both Sides' opening track, Fear Not of Man. He says that whatever's going to happen to hip-hop is whatever's happening to us. And by the way, us could literally be him only speaking to and referring to Black people. He explains that hip-hop mirrors the people's state, emphasizing that hip-hop is a reflection of what society values. He then reverts the question back to the listener. How are you doing? Where are you going? If the people want hip-hop to get better, the people need to get better. If people value materialism succumbing to commercialization that was put in place by American capitalism, then hip-hop's gonna follow suit. On the flip side, if people value their intrinsic self, then hip-hop will thrive on meaningful content. However, one thing though, Yasiin Bey couldn't predict music streaming or things like TikTok, but these platforms continue to prove his point. Even how people consume media shapes hip-hop's direction. So, for example, some rappers create songs literally just for TikTok so they can boost their sales, highlighting the genre's dependency on audience values and behaviors. Just some things I want to point out as well on this topic. I do believe that audiences are as politically conscious as ever, especially with all the international conflicts and boycotting and protesting, but media censorship and corporate control in the music industry is way more different than it was in the late 90s. Political albums often struggle for visibility, and artists who speak up about important issues get blacklisted or just completely taken off our algorithms. Also, a lot of major labels don't want to fund or support an album that has to do with political themes because they decide it isn't lucrative enough. We also now lack independent music labels like we did in the 80s and 90s. Hip-hop faced a new corporate order when major music conglomerates were buying indie labels, just like how Universal bought Def Jam in '99. Chuck D from Public Enemy explained this as the forces who controlled hip-hop and said, quote, "You got 5 corporations that control retail. You got 4 who are the dominant record labels. Then you got 3 radio outlets who own all the stations. You got 2 television networks, and you got 1 video outlet. I call it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom." Obviously, this is a little bit dated because we have social media and tech companies, but the point remains the same. While yes, major labels helped the hip-hop industry grow and gave Black artists the opportunity to venture into entrepreneurship and build huge empires, this came at the cost of narrowing the voices in hip-hop. There was a decrease in the diversity of sounds, ideas, opinions, news, and art in order to appeal to mass audiences. Exploitation via music industries was also a huge theme in To Pimp a Butterfly, so this commentary and criticism remains relevant. Materialism and commercialization in hip-hop. By the end of the 90s, hip-hop had achieved immense commercial success. But with a lot of rappers from the 80s still active in the scene, there was a kind of push and pull effect. Some rappers stayed true to hip-hop's traditional roots, while other rappers like P. Diddy with Bad Boy Records and like the alcohol brands and the clothing brands, or even Wu-Tang Clan with Wu Wear, embraced commercialization. In February 1999, Time magazine's cover story, Hip Hop Nation, featured interviews with Russell Simmons, Lauryn Hill, and P. Diddy. P. Diddy claimed that hip-hop's commercial influence was so strong that if him and Master P were to endorse a political candidate, they could turn an election. The author of the article also added, "Hip-hop is perhaps the only art form that celebrates capitalism openly." This is a controversial statement. In contrast to this, hear how Yasiin Bey describes hip-hop.
And this is the distinction that hip-hop has, as it is the only cultural movement in the world that is on a mass level connected to the lives and the interests of the poor and the suffering. And there's no other arts movement that can say that.
Yasiin Bey has consistently shown disdain for commercialization and capitalism in hip-hop, not just on Black on Both Sides, but also in his personal interviews. In an interview with Spin magazine in 2009, he responded to a question about artists who boast about material items, stating, "Get as many diamond chains and fur pajamas and champagne breakfast as you can, but the chains and pajamas and champagne can't be the end game, not for us. Reckless capitalism kills Black people. This music has given young people an our community a dangerous roadmap, and at the end of it, if you don't end up in some sort of trouble or a grave, you may just end up a fucking nut. Extended exposure to commercial rap has got to have some sort of negative psychological impact on you. It's like, this shit is making me tense. This is not uplifting or relaxing, and I'm already living in an anxious environment. New drugs everywhere, violence is looked on as not that big of a deal, our leaders are sociopaths and thieves, the police hate you, and then you turn on the radio and it's like, pour some champagne on yourself. And how does that look like to the rest of the world? To the rest of our neighbors in this country who don't come from our communities? They're like, these people are morons. Songs like Got, New World Water, Speed Law, and Know That all critique commercialization's impact on hip-hop. Yasiin Bey argues that flaunting wealth and material possessions don't create any significant change to the Black community, which is what hip-hop was all about. Yasiin Bey also critiques rappers who piggyback off commercialization in lieu of them having actual talent, overcompensating by flaunting brands or cars. Similarly, Kendrick Lamar also expresses frustration with commercialization and capitalism in To Pimp a Butterfly. Institutionalized, Mortal Man, and Wesley's Theory discuss how the industry exploits Black artists into a lifestyle of consumerism. In You, Kendrick battles the repercussions of this exploitation, excessive money, and fame, revealing the psychological toll of commercial success. The last line in this song is particularly striking, and if I told your secrets, the world would know money can't stop a suicidal weakness. The psychological aspects, turmoil, and depression that Kendrick faces after fame and success highlights what Yasiin Bey said about the exposure of commercial rap harming and having negative psychological impacts. If listening to commercial rap can have a profound effect on audiences, Kendrick reveals that participating in it is just as worse. The importance of community and connectivity. So in the late 90s, we saw the infamous West and East Coast feud. The feud itself was never that big of a problem until the media began to sensationalize it for profit. At the time, Source became the #1 music magazine, replacing Rolling Stone, and Vibe magazine got so big that they bought rock publication Spin magazine for $43 million. The industries that were exploiting this feud were literally profiting off of Black people and artists fighting each other. And the feud in general caused a rift in the Black community and ultimately led to the deaths of Tupac and Biggie. The title of the album, Black on Both Sides, could be a literal reference to this feud, as Yasiin reminds that despite any divides that the media has fueled, Black people all come from the same culture and struggle, and only through unity could problems get resolved. Songs like Brooklyn, Hip Hop, Mr. I can't say the title name, Love, and Ummi Says emphasize Black unity and community through shared experiences and culture. Even in Miss Fat Booty, the way that the song is structured is in a storytelling conversational tone that makes a listener feel engaged and a part of a communal setting. Yasiin Bey bridges the gaps within the Black community and the hip-hop genre. He unites old school with new school, East Coast with West Coast, the various boroughs of New York, different states celebrating Black love and pride. His genuine and pure love for his community differentiated him from other rappers who were focused on getting rich. His identity as a Black Muslim also further sets him apart as he incorporates many Islamic themes and lessons throughout his songs. Malcolm X is one of the most well-known Black American Muslims, and in his autobiography, he wrote a chapter about his pilgrimage to Mecca. The epiphany of this chapter parallels Yasiin Bey's messages in Black on Both Sides. While he was at Mecca performing Hajj, Malcolm wrote about how having faith in one God transcended racial differences, even uniting him with white Muslims. Yasiin Bey emphasizes a similar point. Having faith in God or a shared pillar like hip-hop or Black culture unites people together, overcoming any differences. Similarly, in To Pimp a Butterfly, Kendrick uses themes of religion to convey messages of community and unity. Songs like I and How Much a Dollar Costs promote the importance of community and faith. Pride and love for Black culture and identity. This is a very obvious theme. The album is filled with references and samples to Black culture, artists, groups, and even history. Yasiin Bey uses these elements to show love and appreciation for artists that came before him while expressing what makes Black culture unique. This approach reinforces the theme of unity and connectivity as these samples and references create an instant connection with the Black community who can understand and recognize them immediately. I don't think I have to explain how this is also a theme in To Pimp a Butterfly. Throughout Black on Both Sides, you'll hear reoccurring motifs and symbols that help reinforce the themes I just mentioned. Brooklyn, New York. Yasiin Bey wears Brooklyn pride on his sleeve, constantly shouting out his hometown and upbringing. He sprinkles in references only true New Yorkers would catch and pays tribute to local artists, with all the album's producers being New York natives. Critical race theory. Every single track dives deep into social issues, tackling racism, politics, law, and media head on. Hip-hop, jazz, and soul. This album is like a love letter to Black culture and is bursting with references, metaphors, and clever wordplay that pays homage to legendary hip-hop, jazz, soul, and rock artists. Islam and Arabic. Again, Yasiin Bey is Muslim, and he uses a lot of Arabic words and Islamic themes throughout the whole album. The opening track, Fear Not of Man, has the opening words Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, which literally means in the name of God, the most merciful and compassionate. In the track Hip Hop, he uses the word akhi, which means brother. In the track Love, he repeatedly uses the word Amin, which is like literally amen. The track Ummi Says translates to mother says, and in that track he uses the word Abi, which means dad, and Jiddu, which means grandfather. And finally, time. Yasiin Bey uses time conceptually to reflect on hip hop's roots, its future, and societal shifts. He weaves in past political and historical references and shares vivid memories of his youth and childhood in New York, grounding the album in personal and cultural history. So now let's move on to one of the best things about this album, and probably one of the reasons why it was so popular with mainstream audiences, the sound of the album. Just like how Yasiin Bey had put so much thought and time in making meaningful, intricate lyrics, the sound and production of this album is just as impeccable. Every single producer that worked on this album was from New York. Ali Shaheed Muhammad from A Tribe Called Quest, Ayatollah, 88 Keys, Psycho Les from the Beatnuts, and legendary DJ Premier all worked on this album. So one of my favorite things about this album that I always like to talk about when I discuss it with friends is how much it shows Yasiin Bey's artistic depth and versatility as an artist. Beyond his lyrical ability and amazing flow, he had a significant hand in shaping the sonic direction of this album. The tracks on this album all feature classic traditional hip-hop stylistic elements like sampling, looping, boom bap beats, but all with a New York flair. He weaves in jazz, soul, rock, and live instrumentation with the bass, congas, vibraphone, keyboard, the drums, all to create a rich, layered sound. Hip-hop albums are usually dominated by digital production, so the use of live instruments truly stands out. The song Rock and Roll, for instance, was recorded with a live band. Yasiin Bey also brought in jazz musician Weldon Irvine to contribute to the production of the album. You can hear him on tracks like Climb and Fear Not of Man. Vocally, Yasiin Bey also experiments a bit as well. He sings a bit of jazz, and he also goes like full-on rock on Rock and Roll. The album is packed with samples and references from legends like Aretha Franklin, Dionne Warwick, James Brown, Biggie, Kool G Rap, Mobb Deep, and A Tribe Called Quest. If this all sounds familiar to you, it should, because Kendrick took a similar approach into Pimp a Butterfly. He also incorporated live instrumentation alongside neo soul, jazz, and funk, but with a West Coast flair, emphasizing his Californian roots. So now let's dive into the lyrical analysis of each song and see how all these elements come together. Fear Not of Man. So most of this song I discussed in the theme, The Future of Hip Hop. It begins with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, which was wild for me to hear as an Arab kid because using Quran in music is pretty taboo. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim means in the name of God, the most merciful and compassionate. It's usually said before doing a good deed, showing Yasiin Bey's good intentions and sincerity for the album. The song samples the Black Panther member Fela Kuti's Fear Not of Man, which Yasiin Bey combines with an Islamic lesson. The only thing to fear in life is God. If you live without fearing anything worldly or made by man or crooked governments and systems, then you will be alright because God triumphs above them all. This sentiment also echoes in Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly. In the song Alright, Kendrick says, "If I'm fucked up, you're fucked up, but if God got us, then we're gonna be alright." Hip-hop. This song is pretty straightforward. Yasiin Bey describes the current state of hip-hop, storytelling its development and how far it's come, while sprinkling in some political political statements and critiques. The second verse especially stands out, directly calling out how hip-hop has turned into an ad space for liquor. The bars, stimulant and sedative, original repetitive, violently competitive, a school unaccredited, are an impressive, impactful way to say so much about hip-hop in just a few words. He wraps up the song by telling the listener, hip-hop will simply amaze you, praise you, pay you, do whatever you say you do, but black, it can't save you. Hip-hop can do a lot for you and make you rich, but it won't save you from the structurally racist systems in America. This idea is also repeated in the track Mr. N, which again, I can't say the name to, but you know what track I'm talking about. Love. So in contrast, Love is another song about hip-hop, but only about how much Mos Def loves hip-hop, how he grew up with it, how much it was a part of his life, and how much soul, feelings, and emotions he pours out into the genre. Miss Fat Booty. The lyrics, set in past tense, feel like Yasiin Bey is casually recounting the story to a group of friends about meeting a girl he's interested in, but she sees their relationship differently. He shares his thoughts and feelings throughout their encounters with added background noises, giving off the vibe of an intimate public setting. Notably, the song samples Aretha Franklin's One Step Ahead. Speed Law and Ga are both critiques on rappers who spend a lot of money to show off. In both songs, Yasiin Bey warns them that flashing their wealth will get them hurt, especially in places like New York. I highly recommend listening to both songs, but I especially like Speed Law because it has so much wit and wordplay. It's just a lot of fun to listen to. Ummi Says. Ummi Says means mother says in Arabic and is a heartwarming, jazzy, soulful track. In his Audible podcast, A Dynamic Career in Communications, Yasiin Bey shared how much his elders had inspired him as a child.
I grew up around a lot of elders, man, just strong, wise, battle-tested people who know how to handle life or rocky waves, and just was just like, hey, that's life. And felt all of it, all of the range of emotion, heartbreak, loss, distress, confusion, all of that. People, my tribe surviving, the trail of tears, but they're the bedrock of what I am.
This song is kind of like an ode to all the guidance and advice that his mother has gave him while growing up, but it's also a powerful and touching song about the liberation and freedom for black people. New World Water. Right off the bat, the first thing that I love about this song is how unique and fun the beat is. Also, the intro literally plays with like this commercial slogan-esque tone that just adds on to the theme and moral of the song. Despite the fun tone that it has, it's also eerily prophetic. Yasiin Bey is probably one of the earliest rappers ever to directly talk about the repercussions of climate change. So if you didn't get the gist already, this song is about climate change. Yasiin Bey talks about how the world is getting so hot that eventually we will have massive droughts and run out of water. He emphasizes how vital water is to our daily lives and how we take it for granted. He then hypothesizes that in the future, water will either be poisoned with chemicals or become a price commodity. The song highlights issues like poverty, wastefulness, pollution, and corrupt capitalist systems. Another really interesting lyric that popped out at me was epidemics hopping up off the petri dish, which echoes the COVID-19 conspiracy theories about the pandemic being man-made. He then follows with control centers try to play it all secretive to avoid public panic and freakiness, referencing media control and media play that was also present during COVID-19. I don't know if anyone else felt this way while listening to the song or reading the lyrics, but the only thing I could think about was Behold a Pale Horse. If you're not familiar with this book, this is Behold a Pale Horse, which is known as the conspiracy theorist Bible. Most importantly, it talks about the drug war legislation and the Federal Emergency Management Agency Act, which suspends the Constitution and employs a police state. Basically, this book confirms that the CIA did smuggle drugs into neighborhoods, and the suspension of the Constitution and police state equals legal police brutality. Given how destructive and horrible the crack epidemic was in New York, a book like this completely radicalized New Yorkers. A lot of rappers have quoted this book, and I wouldn't be surprised if Yasiin Bey had read it and was infusing some of the things that he learned from it into these songs. The only reason why I think that might be the case is because William Cooper, the author of the book, also predicted man-made pandemics. Rock and roll. In Rock and Roll, Yasiin Bey explains that rock music's origins are in black culture. He calls out white rock artists like Limp Bizkit, known for their rap rock style, and says they have no soul in comparison to black rock legends. He also extends his notion of cultural theft to the fashion industry. Midway, the song switches to a hard rock rhythm, and Yasiin Bey finishes the song performing it as a rock version. So this is one of my favorite songs off the album. Rock music is black culture, and it is infuriating to see how it's become a genre that is mainly associated with white people. And I can understand the notion of it being annoying when someone takes something from your culture, profits off of it, and doesn't give you any credit at all. I've also seen this a lot in fashion. Black women are the blueprint for many styles and trends, but when they wear it, they get called many bad names. But then when a white woman wears it, all of a sudden it becomes a huge worldwide trend and everybody loves it. It's even more infuriating when you think about how these same people that steal from black culture don't even like black people. Like, how are you racist and a thief? But I mean, technically, I guess that's America for you. I don't know. Know That featuring Talib Kweli and Do It Now featuring Busta Rhymes. In each song, they kind of just go at other rappers, but there is a common theme of celebrating black pride. Climb featuring Vinaya Mojika. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Climb is another one of my favorite tracks from this album that I think honestly gets overlooked a bit. It's a very spacey, atmospheric, emotional, and melancholic track. In this song, Yasiin Bey describes a typical party night out. People are dressed up, partying, smoking, and drinking until they reveal their true selves. Yet, by the end of the night, there's this haunting sense of loneliness. So this could be a metaphor for fame. A lot of celebrities and artists, despite living glamorous lives, often talk about depression and loneliness. One of the reoccurring lines, "Baby don't make no fast moves," could be a reference to speed law, but it also feels like a warning against drastic actions like overdosing. The repeated phrase, "climb into the night, let me climb," initially made me think of getting high, but by the end of the song, it felt more like the soul leaving the body or like an ego death. Brooklyn and Habitat are tracks that show love to Yasiin Bey's hometown, Brooklyn, New York. Both songs are filled with references that only New Yorkers, especially from Brooklyn, would instantly recognize. The song Brooklyn features a beat switch to Biggie Smalls' Who Shot Ya, dedicating the rest of the track to B.I.G.'s memory. I also love how Yasiin Bey flips Red Hot Chili Peppers' Under the Bridge from a song about Cali to one about New York. Habitat is more about how your upbringing stays with you no matter where you go. Can't say it. This song tells the story of Mr. N, a young, well-dressed, high-earning man with a great career and a nice car. Despite his success, he constantly faces racism. So the wild thing about all the encounters that Yasiin Bey story tells in this track is that he all receives these like racist encounters by people who were technically under a lower social status than him. So for example, waitresses, tourists, flight attendants. The point that Yasiin Bey is trying to make is that no amount of money or fame can save you from racism, whether it's through microaggressions, stereotypes, or backhanded comments. And finally, Mathematics, one of Yasiin Bey's most impressive and famous tracks, produced by the legendary DJ Premier. In this song, Yasiin Bey intertwines math and numerology, addressing political and social issues, using metaphors, idioms, clever wordplay, and statistical figures. I had to write this down because it's a lot, but this song critiques the crack epidemic, the AIDS crisis, systemic racism, the military-industrial complex, exploitive industries, police brutality, mass incarceration, classism, and the failing educational system. It does all of that in one song. The reference to the failing education system is important to point out because Yasiin is basically teaching rappers how to properly rap. He says you need to know how to put two and two together, not just in reference to actual math, but also in being able to understand why certain things are the way that they are in a social political lens. It's one of the most thought-provoking and complex, intricate songs in hip-hop that I highly encourage multiple listen-throughs just to get a grasp on what Yasiin Bey is saying. To rap about all these topics while incorporating different stylistic elements and rhyming schemes and including numeral statistics is insane. Placed at the end of this album, it feels like the final blow, like a really big like finish him moment to an album that's already filled with so much content and political and social commentary. And finally, the actual last track on this album is May December. The album ends with a short instrumental with live instruments played by Yasiin Bey and Weldon Irvine. Many people don't really talk about this track, but I found it interesting that the title refers to a May-December romance, which literally means someone young falling in love with someone older. I kind of interpret it as Yasiin Bey being the young person in this scenario that's in love with the old school or his elders before him. So let's talk about the album cover. It's just a picture of Yasiin Bey. Honestly, it's a strong display of authenticity. Yasiin Bey doesn't need to show anything more than just himself. This is kind of echoing the critiques of all the rappers that he made in his songs who would usually flaunt wealth or material on their album covers. In the inside sleeve, there's like a map of New York. On the other side, it says, "We won't get there if we don't get there together." This is a paraphrase quote from the Quran's Surat al-Imran. The verse essentially explains that everyone should hold on to God's rope, not create divide amongst themselves, and just put your trust and faith in God. And if you do, he'll save you from any conflict. Yasiin Bey choosing to include this in the album sleeve reaffirms the themes of connectivity and unity. Black on Both Sides is a timeless album that transcends its era with strong themes about Black love, pride, and empowerment. Yasiin Bey's message stands true. No matter how much things around us change or how much the world change, everything is influenced by us humans, and our reality is shaped by our mind and our values. So ultimately, this album is grounded in giving power back to people. Yasiin Bey does all of this in a relatable and emotional way that doesn't come across as commanding or condescending like a lot of other political woke albums do. You can hear him having fun with each track as his tone comes across as more witty and like dark humor-esque. It also helps that Yasiin Bey is an amazing lyricist with great storytelling and technical abilities that makes it easy for him to convey complex messages with purpose and impact. The commonalities between To Pimp a Butterfly and Black on Both Sides reveal what can make a political album with a lot of social commentary popular with the mainstream. Overall, it has to do with execution, sound, emotion, and purpose. Executionally, there's something more dramatic and theatrical about Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly that I believe is more emotionally striking with listeners. Kendrick had a story that he wanted to communicate, and he used the whole album from start to finish to do so. Whereas Yasiin Bey tells a different story or moral in each of his tracks. In my opinion, I'd say Black on Both Sides is more thought-provoking and complex, mainly due to Yasiin Bey's technical style and how much information he can fit in like a single bar. Both artists are deliberate in their production, infusing layers with many samples and references that spark thought and recognition in listeners, making it easier to emotionally connect and relate to. The use of live instrumentation also shows both artists' artistic depth and passion for what they've made. Each album successfully teaches something about the world to its listener, about race, class, and politics. Both albums celebrate Black love and pride through the use of Black cultural references and samples. And of course, both rappers show love to their hometowns, clearly showing how much where they were raised has impacted their life immensely. Both comment on hip-hop and the music industry, but it is interesting to see how Yasiin Bey prophesizes and predicts what commercialization would do to hip-hop in the future, which then Kendrick years later confirms in To Pimp a Butterfly. However, he also confirms another point made by Yasiin Bey, that if you have value in self and faith in God, you can break out of what commercialization has cocooned artists to be in and then release an album like To Pimp a Butterfly. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. I love both of these albums. When I first wrote the write-up for this video, I wrote over 10,000 words, like literally just on Black on Both Sides. This might be one of my more longer videos, but if you actually stuck around to the end, I really appreciate you. On some personal thoughts, I first listened to Black on Both Sides in high school, so like years later after 1999, but oddly enough, it was the first album that I actually felt a connection to. Yeah, I know. I know. That might be weird for me to say because I know. I'm Arab, I grew up in a Muslim household, and listening to Arabic in a hip-hop album or seeing so much direct Islamic themes was the first time I can listen to a hip-hop album and have that instant feeling of recognition, like, oh, I know what he's saying, I know what that means, like that's what I grew up with, like I know what that is. That was the first time I felt that in an album. Interestingly enough though, that small amount of recognition and connection that I had for just like the few times that Arabic or Islam is mentioned in this album also revealed to me how much I really don't relate to everything else in the album. Obviously that goes without saying, like we do all logically say like, yeah, I like these albums but I can't relate to them. But that feeling, like having that feeling, you won't know what it's like until you feel it. And then when you do feel it, you'll know that you'll never be able to feel it. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing with music. It's more of like an emotional thing. I hope I'm making sense right now. But yeah, for that reason, I do have a lot of fondness for this album, and I really do appreciate it a lot. I couldn't imagine how great it must be to like listen to albums like this or to Pimp a Butterfly and be able to completely relate and have that instant feeling of emotional recognition. Thank you again for watching. I had a lot of fun writing about both these albums. I love them very much. My battery's gonna die. Of course it is. Bye!